Running the Marathon des Sables was going to be one of the most challenging races Mauro Prosperi had ever faced. On the contrary, he became utterly disoriented in the merciless Sahara Desert. He fought for 9 days, eating live bats and drinking his own pee simply to stay alive. How did what started off as a difficult race turn into a battle for survival? Mauro Prosperi's miraculous survival story is revealed today. Please like and subscribe if you find survival stories fascinating. All right, let's jump right into this incredible story. Pay close attention at all times. This information might end up saving your life. Throughout his life, Mauro Prosperi, an accomplished Italian police officer and runner, sought out tests that would challenge his mettle. One of the world's most punishing endurance races, the Marathon des Sables, was his 1994 challenge. In the middle of the Sahara Desert, where temperatures regularly exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, this 6-day ultramarathon covers 155 kilometers. For months, Prosperi had trained diligently. The dangers, such as the scorching heat and the vast, unforgiving desert, were not unknown to him. He was ready to take on the challenge because he believed in himself and his talents. Despite everyone starting at the same pace in the morning, the small field and varying speeds caused most runners to pace themselves by mid-race. Even though the terrain was dangerous and the heat was strong, Prosper soon found his groove and continued to press forward. Everything was running smoothly throughout the initial days. Constantly gazing ahead, Prosper maintained a steady pace with the front runners. On day 4, though, a ferocious storm ripped over the course, dropping visibility to almost zero, the kind of thing that the Sahara Desert is known for. Hail and stinging sands accompanied the unrelenting storm. The sand kept covering Prosperi, no matter how many times he tried to take cover. I vowed to remain on the marathon route out of fear that Prosper would keep running through the whole 7-hour storm. The scenery, however, had changed drastically by the time the storm had passed. The storm had blown or buried the runner's markings, leaving Prosper bewildered and unsure of his location. Because he couldn't see any other runners and couldn't see the course ahead of him, Prosper had to make the tough choice to keep racing in the direction he thought was right. The thought of taking home a medal from this race was still occupying his thoughts. It became glaringly obvious that he was lost as the hours slipped away and the desert loomed onward. Originally intended as an endurance race, the Marathon des Sables had transformed into a struggle for life in one of the planet's most hostile climates. He was oblivious to the fact that the real challenge lay ahead in the desert. The intense heat presented Mauro Prosperi with his first challenge. He had to preserve energy because the sun was beating down on him so hard. One of Prosperi's biggest fears was becoming very dehydrated. He was severely undersupplied with water, which was intended to sustain him for brief intervals between checkpoints. At this point, his only resources for survival were an almost depleted bottle and some food. Night fell, and no one was in sight. Prosper decided to locate a place to sleep in the hopes of being rescued the following day. A chopper whizzed by, giving him a fleeting hope that his plan could actually work. He tried everything to get the pilot's attention but failed. Just think of the anguish and helplessness felt by those trapped so near to safety, yet so far away. Prosperi remained unfazed by these obstacles and remained determined to survive. Realizing that staying motionless was futile, Prosperi endeavored to locate the spot where he had lost the marathon trail. It was extremely difficult, if not impossible, to find his way back in the huge, featureless desert. The hard desert atmosphere was wearing him down, and as the hours passed, he became more and more confused and weary. Just when Prosper's optimism was waning, he caught sight of a Muslim shrine off in the distance. He kept hoping that someone could be residing there and be able to assist him. Sadly, the little run-down structure remained deserted despite providing a welcome shelter from the weather. It was only after Mauro Prosperi sought sanctuary in the deserted Muslim temple that the seriousness of his predicament hit him. He found temporary refuge from the scorching Sahara sun in the little run-down structure, but it was far from a haven. Prosperi found bats there, in their natural habitat. Using his pocket knife, he decapitated the bats, drank their blood, and devoured their raw flesh, all driven by extreme desperation. Despite its unpleasant taste, this unappetizing food provided him with the nutrients he needed to stay alive. Then, outside the temple, he laid the carcasses to rest. At first, Prosperi remained in the shrine, where he faced the harsh elements, dehydration, and starvation. Extreme heat during the day and sub-zero temperatures at night were just two examples of the severe weather. Cold nights deprived him of what little sleep he could get, and the scorching sun drained his last reserves of energy. Inside and outside the temple, he hunted for insects and lizards to eat, as well as anything else that could provide some food. Then, a glimmer of optimism appeared, in the shape of an airplane engine circling above. As soon as Prosper heard the faraway roar, his heart raced with excitement at the thought of possible rescue. Igniting a fire to produce smoke, he swiftly cut the words SOS into the sand, intending to attract the pilot's notice. Unfortunately, optimism vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Out of nowhere, a sandstorm hit, blindingly dusting the shrine and destroying the SOS signal. The plane swooped past Prosper, leaving him in a state of overwhelming sadness. He took his own life because he was sure no one would come for him, and because his wife would never get his police pension if he wasn't found. It takes 10 years after a person goes missing in Italy for their family to be able to claim death benefits. With an Italian flag draped over the shrine's roof, Prosperi slashed his wrists with a razor blade, intent on having his body found. However, the desert still would not release him, even in this gloomy moment. Because his blood had thickened from severe dehydration, his wounds clotted rapidly. An unyielding determination to live propelled him to a fresh sense of purpose the following day, as he awoke, still alive, though severely impaired. "Hello, Mauro." No, Prosperi would not give up. He bandaged his injuries and resolved to endure any hardship that came his way. In a desperate attempt to avoid dehydration, Prosper began to drink his own urine. The only way for his body to continue functioning was through this desperate attempt. The more time Prosper spent at the shrine, the more he realized he couldn't remain there indefinitely. He got up and started walking, continuing his fight for survival in the desert. He pushed himself physically and mentally to his limits as he hiked through the desert for 6 days, mostly at dawn and nightfall to avoid the worst of the sun's heat. Prosper's health gradually deteriorated as the days went by. Because of the dehydration, his body began to shut down, and his mind began to play terrible tricks on him. His mental health suffered greatly as a result of the terrible environment and isolation. He started to have hallucinations, where he would see oasis mirages and hear voices that weren't there. Mauro Prosperi was emotionally and physically exhausted by the 9th day. The immense, merciless Sahara showed no mercy as his frail body and muddled mind succumbed to despair. His narrative took a miraculous turn at this very time, when all hope seemed lost. While in delirium, Mauro saw what appeared to be a distant movement of small objects, which he initially believed to be a mirage. With a final burst of energy, he staggered over to it, desperately hoping it was genuine. Close inspection revealed that the young girl was leading a herd of goats. A Berber settlement was in his sights. Because they were so used to life in the desert, the Tuaregs knew that Mauro needed assistance badly. With goat's milk as an offering, a band of Tuareg women took him in. After days of being very undernourished and dehydrated, Prosper first puked up the food since he couldn't digest it. Suspecting him of being a spy, the Tuareg men of the camp gave Prosper to the military police after they rode him to the closest village on a camel. He was taken to a military base and interrogated while blindfolded. The discovery of his race documents led them to the realization that he was a misplaced marathon runner. The medical staff at a Tindouf hospital pronounced his 9 days of survival under such harsh circumstances a miracle once he was moved there. Unthinkable had been accomplished by Mauro Prosperi. With little more than his determination, he had made it through 9.5 days in the Sahara Desert. Just when he thought he had given everything he had, he was rescued after veering off the marathon path by 100 to 180 miles, crossing the Jebel Bon mountain range, and unknowingly crossing the Moroccan border into Algeria. His life transformed into an urban legend, serving as a symbol of the human spirit's resilience against overwhelming challenges. The rescue wasn't the end of Mauro Prosperi's suffering. After finding and receiving medical care, it took nearly 2 years for him to fully recover. Still, he showed no signs of giving up. "Will you run the marathon again?" a journalist in Rome had asked him. This is his response: "I always finish my races." After regaining his strength, Prosperi kept his word and competed in the 1997 Marathon des Sables. In the years that followed, he finished the race no less than 9 times before retiring in 2017. Remarkably, He managed to finish 13th in 2001, demonstrating that his resilience and willpower were unwavering even after going through the terrifying ordeal in the Sahara. As an example of the extraordinary strength of the human spirit, Mauro's account of surviving in the Sahara has moved people all around the globe. Make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment with your opinions, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing survival stories if you were captivated by Mauro's story like we were. Until next time, stay curious and stay strong.